So yeah, thank you very much for the kind introduction and thanks for having me. So I have some good news and some bad news for the stationary energy storage industry. So which one would you like to hear first? Good news or bad news? Are you all pessimists? So I start with the good news anyway. So the good news is that the stationary energy storage market is leaving its infancy and it's on its way to becoming a grown-up market, about 30 times the size of what we are seeing today, according to our own proprietary forecasts. And we are not alone with our optimism in that regard. As well as analysts such as Bloomberg and Navigant, also accountants and bankers are starting to sing the praises of energy storage and its bright future. Underappreciated disruptor, exponential growth. Sounds good? Well, let's get prepared for the bad news. The bad news is that not all of the energy storage players we are seeing today will be around when the fun really starts. Not all of them will participate in the tremendous growth of stationary energy storage, but they'll have exited the business before the mass market kicks in. And as you know, it has happened already in other industries, such as the solar industry. So please join me for a short walk down the boulevard of broken solar trees. So we have Sunfilm, bankrupt. Solyndra, bankrupt. Schott, exited business. Bosch, same. Sun Edison, bust. So don't be these guys, but what can you actually do to not follow a similar path in energy storage? So what's needed to successfully participate in the future market of energy storage? Well, I will tell you in a second, but before, let me introduce you to my company, Apricom. So Apricom is a strategy consultancy and transaction advisory firm with an exclusive focus on clean tech. And that includes solar, wind, water, energy storage, and digital energy. We are around since 2008 and have completed more than 200 successful projects for our clients. We are based in Berlin, in Germany, but we are active globally and we are represented to more than 40 clean tech experts in all geographies relevant for us. And that includes countries in South America, North America, Europe, Middle East, North Africa, and also Asia. We help clean tech companies to grow. And we do so, for example, by raising the necessary funds. And I'm very happy to say that we already helped a lot of companies in this regard, as you can see by some of our more recently closed deals. And apart from closing deals, we are also providing different advisory work, for example, doing due diligences for investors interested in the clean tech space, or also strategy consultancy for both established players in the clean tech sector, but also new entrants that want to benefit from the drastic growth we are seeing here. And through our day-to-day work in the global stationary energy storage market, we have gained very deep insights into the dynamics of the energy storage market and what it takes to be successful, not only today, but also in the near future. So what are our recommendations? First of all, you need to understand the dynamics and the characteristics of the stationary energy storage markets, as those are determining the rules of the game. So I would like to highlight 4 of those characteristics. So number 1, high complexity. There are a lot of variables and unknowns which make it very hard to plan ahead. Second, there are many alternatives. So there's barely one use case that can only be served by one energy storage technology. So in fact, there are various storage and also non-storage solutions we will have to compete against. Third, there's an indifference to energy storage, if you're honest. So no one has really waited for energy storage. There are existing traditional solutions around that can do the job as well. And uncertain cash flows, which makes bankability a hard thing to achieve. So this is a playing field you need to be successful on. So how to cope best with the resulting and related challenges? So what are the ingredients your business model needs to comprise to be one of the winning teams? We would like to show you 5 and talk about 5 of the most important ingredients in our view. The first ingredient is you need to remain flexible. So you need to be able to adapt quickly to changing market conditions. So the beauty of energy storage is really that you can address so many different use cases. And there are, of course, different methodologies for classification, but we at Applicum count at least 18 different use cases. And this is in stark contrast to other technologies such as solar, where there's basically one single use case, and that is squeezing as much electricity out of the sun as possible. But this high number of use cases makes energy storage a pretty complex animal, because each use case, for each use case you have a different demand depending on the individual challenges you are facing in a specific energy market. For each use case, energy storage is competitive to a different extent, mainly driven by costs which are developing differently along a vast array of different storage technologies. And last but not least, for each use case you have dynamic regulatory frameworks which are adding additional complexity. Therefore, it's very hard to predict which use cases will actually be the most attractive and for how long. So in fact, we are seeing pockets of opportunities which are opening up, but also closing again quite rapidly. So for example, take the German frequency response market, so PCR, primary control reserve. So it's pretty much stagnating at around 600 megawatt despite the strong addition of fluctuating renewable energy. But in 2016 there were already 160 megawatt of stationary utility-scale storage installed to address that use case. And on top of that, also distributed aggregated energy storage is increasingly targeting this use case to beef up the behind-the-meter business model. And on top of that, you still have the traditional players and traditional solutions such as fossil plants, which have always provided this kind of service. So what is happening if in a market demand is stagnating and supply is increasing? That's right, prices are going down. So this pocket of opportunity is closing, so better make sure your business is not closing along with it. In this kind of markets, you need to be flexible. And first of all, that means your business model has to be flexible. So you cannot stick to the business model as you originally designed it, but you have to review and adapt it constantly according to what's going on in the market. So to keep it flexible, you should not lock into a specific technology. And this is not only true for downstream companies that should run a technology agnostic approach, but also to technology companies themselves that should keep a high flexibility by design at the interfaces to other components such as inverters. You should also not log into a specific use case, or in other words, a specific mode of operation of your storage unit. Make sure that you can remotely update your software or easily modify your technology in case you are an upstream company. And you should keep flexible partnerships. So you should enter contracts that can be cancelled easily. For example, warranties should be adaptable to changing use cases, for example. And at least these contracts should have enough degrees of freedom to be flexible enough. And last but not least, you have to keep a superb understanding of the market, because at the end of the day, you need to understand what to change or what to adapt to and when. The second ingredient for being successful in the future energy storage market is pretty obvious: continue to reduce costs, because there will be a lot of alternatives you have to compete against. So for the energy storage installations we are seeing today, cost competitiveness did not always play a major role. So a lot of the utility scale energy storage, stationary energy storage installations were rather meant to be pilots. And also sales in the residential storage space are rather driven by early adopters, semi-return optimizers, so forth. And there seems to be a lot of space for different players in the residential energy storage space. So the last time I checked, I counted 48 different suppliers of residential storage in Germany alone. But this is going to change, because on its way to a mass market, energy storage will also have to convince customers that are more cost sensitive by lower prices, and this is resulting in a more fierce competition and consolidation at the end of the day. And as you already see, already today, about 2/3 of the market are covered by the top 4 players in residential storage. And you not only have to compete against other energy storage players, you also have to compete against non-storage solutions, for example, such as gas peaker plants, now obviously speaking at the utility scale level. So if you do not have incentive programs for energy storage, as it is the case, for example, in California, the gas peaker replacement use case with energy storage is still a difficult one to realize and will most likely stay so also in the next couple of years. And in fact, for basically every use case you have in energy storage, there is an incumbent solution available that is already there for a while and therefore has been tested quite intensively. So it might be hard to compete against these if you're not able to offer low costs. So how to become more cost competitive? When people talk about energy storage costs, they mainly talk about CapEx these days. And